Today we're going to be running my Stuart Turner 10H. Now this is not a new engine, this is featured in several of the videos I've done on my channel. So why am I filming this and why am I running it? Well, I'm running it purely because I love running this engine. This little Stuart 10H is the closest thing I've got to a full-size steam engine. It is the largest, certainly in bore and stroke. This is a 3/4 inch bore and 3/4 inch stroke engine. Largest steam engine that I've got, and I absolutely love running this thing. And it's freezing cold here in the UK. It's January, late January, and it's absolutely freezing. And steam engines make you feel warm. It's not just the heat. Obviously they're hot when they're running, but they just make you feel warm, and they're just wonderful things. And this 10H is absolutely fantastic little engine. Now, I didn't make any of this. I bought the engine and the boiler and the chimney all off of eBay. I don't know whether this was a kit-built 10H or it was factory made, but it's superb. Whoever did it did an absolutely fantastic job. The only thing on here that is mine is the pipe work and the little condensate tray. I did actually make that many years ago. A little bit of tin plate brass work there, and it works fine. Now, I haven't run this engine in months. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months, something like that. And because I do a bit of prep work on this before I put it away after I've run it, it is completely free. Even though it's not been used in months, it's free and it turns lovely. Now, I don't know how other people do this, but this is the way I do it. This thing has a cast iron cylinder. It will rust if you just look at it. It's the cast iron is great, but as you all know, bad for rust. So what I do when I finish running it and it's cooled down, I disconnect the steam pipe here and I squirt a load of Rocket 40, WD-40 into the valve chest and rotate this so that it goes into the cylinder. So this thing sits soaked in WD-40 and it works brilliantly. It stops it from rusting up inside. Great way to preserve your engines. So, right, today I'll run through the procedure that I use when I'm going to start one of these engines. I'm not saying it's the correct way to do things. It works for me. Other people may do things differently. You know, there's always different ways of doing stuff, but I'm going to show you what I do with this. So, the very first thing I do before I do anything else is I'm going to put a very small amount of warm water into the boiler. Now, the boiler is stone cold, obviously. And I like to do this because I feel it puts less stress on the boiler. If you put a little bit of, this is not boiling water, you know, there goes my finger in it. It's just hot water out of the tap. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this in. And this will allow, you know, the boiler will suck the heat out of this warmer and water, and it will just simply warm the boiler up so that I will be putting boiling water in it when I actually come to fill it, and that would be quite a shock to the to the boiler itself. So warming it up like this stops any thermal shock basically, and that will just sit there now while I go through the rest of it. Next up, I'm going to disconnect the steam union here underneath the valve. Pull that off like that. And then I'm going to put some steam oil directly into the valve chest through that pipe. Hopefully do this without getting all my arms in the way. And then I'm going to rotate the engine to open the ports in the valve chest, so that hopefully some of that steam oil will get through into the cylinder. And there we go. So that's the cylinder oiled up. I'm going to reconnect the steam valve now, and we'll tighten that up, and then I will go down and check all the other unions as well to make sure that everything is tight. Next, we're going to drain the displacement lubricator just to check to see whether there is. We're going to check to see whether there's any oil in it for a start off, and if it needs, and fill it up if it needs oil, which it looks like it does. And then we'll take the drain out the bottom. You don't need to take this all the way out, but I like to. And we'll see if there's any condensate, which there doesn't appear to be. It looks like it's just oil, so we'll top that up with steam oil. Right. The reason I'm doing this is because it shows that there is just oil coming out of the oiler, no condensate. So that's great. So we can put this back in. Tighten that up. There we go. Give it a wipe over. Right, now we can top up our displacement lubricator with steam oil. No, there wasn't much in there at all. Oh, and for those of you who are interested, this is a Keith Appleton displacement lubricator. Many, many years ago, Keith used to make these and sell them on his website. I don't think he does anymore. But yes, this is actually a Keith Appleton one. Very, very suitable when you consider that he has, well, hundreds of Stuart Turner engine videos on his website. So the other thing I like about his lubricators are they have a nice capacity to them. So it holds quite a lot of steam oil, as you can see. I think we're nearly there now. Yeah, there we go. Right, I'll put the top back on. There we go. It's got a rubber O-ring on it, so it doesn't need to be that tight. Just nip it up. So that's the lubricator done. So next up is lubricating the engine itself. Now I've turned it round so you can see what I'm doing. There are lubrication oil holes in the tops of the bearing journals here. We'll just put a couple of drops of oil in there like that, and also on here. Now I freely admit I tend to over oil, but I figure too much is way better than too little. Same on the eccentric down here and on here. Couple of drops. Right, now I'm going to use steam oil on the valve shaft, which is this bit here. There we go. And I'm also going to lubricate the conrod small end here, but I'm going to have to turn the engine on its side to do that, so I won't actually show doing that. But yes, so we lubricate everything. Okay, make sure everything is well lubricated and turning freely. Just put a little bit more on the eccentric. There we go. So once I've turned it over and done the conrod small end, which is in here, that will be the engine lubricated. So the next stage is to actually fill the boiler, and we'll be filling it up to halfway on the gauge glass here, sight glass. So now, why do I use hot water? Well, simply it takes far less time for it to get up steam if you use hot water, pre-boiled water effectively, and it uses less gas. So there we go. Don't forget, I'd already put some warm water in, so the boiler is not freezing cold. The boiler is actually quite warm at this stage, which is what you want. You're not stressing it at all. This is a big boiler, this one. It does take quite a lot of water. There we go. That's about halfway up the gauge glass there. So I'll just put the safety valve and filler plug back in, and we'll light the gas. So the gas is alight, plugs are back in. Now I've got to do is wait for it to build up pressure. The valve is off, this is closed. So we're all oiled up. So yeah, we just have to wait a while for it to build up pressure. Well, pressure's starting to rise. And even though I'm using the biggest gas burner I've got, pressure does not come up very quickly on this engine. I think we're at about 15 psi at the moment. So we've got a way to go yet, but it is coming up. We're up to 20 psi. That may well be enough. So we'll change the camera angle back around to the front. I'll open the valve and see what happens. No, we're not quite there yet. Oh, we are. We are there. Oh, I love running this engine. That's about 15 psi steam pressure. Looks like we got a small leak out of the exhaust, but no. I just love this engine. See how quiet it is? Perfect. Let's see if we can get it to run a bit slower. Yeah. About on the limit, I think. But that's not bad, that's pretty damn slow. Nice bit of steam coming out of the chimney. There is something about running steam engines. I don't understand what it is. I can't tell you, put it into words. Alex Carnes, possibly one of the greatest living experts on steam engines of all sorts, can probably put it better than me. If you've watched any of his videos, he is quite expressive when it comes to getting the full-size engines running that he does. But there is something amazing about them. So we can get a better camera angle on it. Like I said before, I don't know who made this engine, but they did a superb job. It's fantastic. I love this thing. Ooh. I'll turn it around and we'll have a look from the front. Just amazing, amazing thing. As I said, I don't really know what it is. There's just something reassuring about it. I don't know why. I also like the fact that there's no electricity happening here, which is great. I hope to one day possibly get at least another Stuart Turner engine. I mean, I have the other one. I've got two, but I would like to get another one. One of their beam engines maybe. It would be fantastic. Or an S50, something like that, which is even bigger. Need to get a bigger burner though. Because my little gas burner is right on the limit of providing pressure for this thing. It's just fantastic. By the way, if you're wondering why I have a condensate tray, that is why. Cast iron chimney, the steam condenses and you get a lot of water. So there you go. My Stuart Turner 10H running under steam on a very cold late January morning in 2024 in the UK. And there's your steam. That is just so nice to see. This engine is just peaceful. It's just calming. It's just, listen to that. Yeah, exactly. There isn't anything. Oh. Just love the thing. Obviously, while you're running it, you're listening for noises that shouldn't be there and checking that the lubrication is okay. I might put a few more drops in the bearing journal oilers. And also you need to keep your eye on that. That is very important, the sight glass. Okay. Now, bearing in mind it was just over half full when I put it, we're down to just under half full now, so it has used quite a bit. When you saw the water condensate that was in the condensate catcher, so. I don't like to run these engines fast. They you know, the full size engines would not have been run at a high speed. They would run at a relatively low speed. They would have a governor. This doesn't have a governor, but they would have had a governor, and they would have just chugged along at a relatively low speed, providing immense amounts of torque. The thing about steam engines, torque. That's what it's all about. It's not the power, it's the torque, and they're incredible things. Because the other thing as well is the gas bottle gets cold as you take gas out of it, and of course that reduces the pressure. So yeah, it's barely off 10 psi now, the boiler, so we are running. But that's again the beauty of this engine, it will run at incredibly low pressure. You get a Stuart Turner that's set up right and it will run at unbelievably low pressure. They're just that good. Okay, well, I think you've probably had enough of watching this thing run. I haven't. I can watch these forever. I'm going to let it run for a little bit longer, keeping my eye on the sight glass, and then we'll turn it off. The boiler pressure's dropping now. As you can see, I've got the valve right open, and it's, you know, it's still running, but it's coming down. Well, I hope you'll enjoy watching my Stuart Turner 10H go through its paces. I certainly have. I love this engine. I love running it. They're just a joy. They really are. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.